Shut up and sit down.
Viva Colombia! Viva Gandernal! Vive le Tour de France!
The first love of my life was not a girl, it was my very first bike. Bridgewood Park, 1985, with my dad's hand on my back. The joy of summer.
Are you sad that the tour is over and you have nothing better to do? Well, you might as well listen to the Dialed podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. Cheer up, Buttercup. Storms don't last forever. 2020 will be here before you know it.
Since I learned how to ride a bike, I knew I was hooked for life. But out on the streets, there's a ride going on, and I'm right on the edge of a knife because cycling in the city is perilous, downright scary and dangerous. I wear bright clothes so conspicuous, but all I want is.
Some might argue that bike riders and car drivers are like oil and water. They just don't mix.
Hey, put your helmet on, your head will soon be gone. Ride it up to the pavement. On my bike all day, every day, as I'm cycling up and down Lollipop Lane. Pump up your tires, bed, oil your chain, waterproof trousers.
Today, I'm going to teach you guys how to wheelie on a mountain.
My bike, I love my bike, I love my bike.
Never, ever wear underwear.
All right, welcome back to the Dialed podcast. I'm Jake Von During. Today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance in the studio.
Woo! And today on Skype, we've got the one and only Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good. How you doing? Wonderful. Yeah, good.
Hanging in there. Hanging in there.
And back in the studio with us, Mr. Evan Price.
So we got coffee and sparkling waters today. You know what I saw? Apparently Cassia told me that the What's Everybody Drinking Today thing is already used by another podcast group. She told me to use that, and it's used by another podcast group.
They don't care if we use
Did
it.
they say?
I think they will. I'm going to have legal action coming against me soon if I don't change up.
Did they say what are you drinking, or did they say what are you sipping? What you sipping?
Oh, that's a good question. I need to look at that. Yeah,
Should check on that.
I should.
Two totally different terms.
Don't worry. On my trip coming up here, I'll make sure I brainstorm a new entry.
Yeah. Well, let's start the backpedal. Matt, why don't you backpedal for us first, because you're on Skype and I'm sure you got some stories to tell.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I am in Whistler, Canada, for the 2019 Ironman Canada race, which I am spectating instead of watching. I was able to secure like one of the race entry badges things, so I can kind of go everywhere and get into spots I'm not really supposed to be. So that's been fun. Brought a camera, took some pictures.
You probably looked like media out there, didn't you?
And cheered on some friends.
Cool.
Cheered on a lot of friends, yeah.
Good. How did the race go down? Everybody do well, or was it rough? Or
it was yeah, no, I mean, like, I would say it was like, the course was really difficult, right? Because it's like so much climbing. But the weather was fantastic, which, really plays a huge part in these races. And I mean, it was just kind of, I would say, like, pretty much perfect weather. A little cold in the morning when they started. I think it was like 49, 50 degrees or something like that. But it really warmed up quickly. So I don't think you really needed much by the time you were done with your swim and, you start climbing around on the bike. I mean, it was really good conditions for the whole thing. So they had a women's pro field, but not a men's pro field. And what's interesting is Heather Wertel was like second out of the water, but then like there was like confusion in the transition. And so Heather got onto the bike first. And then she got passed pretty quickly by this. I don't remember her last name, but her name's like Dee. Her last name starts with a G. I can't remember.
Grease Power or something like that.
So then, they like head off, into the distance and, only seeing parts of the race. And then by the time the bike was over, Heather had put, a significant amount of time back into Dee. So it was interesting. I'm not sure how it all went down, but some back and forth there on the women's field. And then Heather just hung on the run. I think she won by about 7 to 10 minutes or something like that. So
cool.
Do you know it's a really cool stat, Matt?
Yeah, it's a good race.
So Trevor Wertel won the very first Ironman Whistler, which I believe was either 2012 or 2014. and then the very last
2013. Yeah.
20, yeah. And
right,
then,
right in between your suggestions.
There you go. So yeah, somewhere in between there. And then, so the first one was won by Trevor, and then the very last one, Heather won, which is kind of cool because now you know it's moving location. So the Wurtels bookended the victories in Canada, which is pretty cool little stat.
Yeah, I talked to both of them last night at midnight for a while, and because they I'd done some other video projects with them or whatever, and so they were like, how's your arm? And I'm like, oh, it's okay, but they were, and talking to them about some of the other people that were having injuries and stuff like that. And I think they were pretty happy. I don't know how much longer they're going to do all this Ironman stuff, but I think they were just kind of happy to have a victory. I feel like Trevor's put in, a lot of time into the sport and stuff like that. So, I think they're doing well. I just don't know how much longer they're going to play the Ironman game. So,
yeah, they've been doing it for a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, it was really cool to catch up with those guys. And I'm super pumped that Heather won. I was cheering for her. And I got a ton of video footage and photos and stuff like that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. One of the friends of the podcast was basically, one of the guys that I had trained with a fair amount. And I was really excited to see, how he would do. We've talked about him on the podcast before, Nathan Ansbaugh. He basically swam really well, swam about 56 minutes. He was, one of the first few people out of the water, right? Because you have women's pros and then you have age group guys. And so he was right up there, got on the bike, did fine on the bike. Not a super fast time. I think things started to kind of crumble, and he thinks he may have a stress fracture in his foot, but he ended up pulling out of the race, after about halfway through the run, maybe a little further than that, 15 miles or so. So I think he's probably pretty disappointed. I was like, oh man, I took so much video of you, so much stuff. And then I was like, we're just going to delete all this stuff. I'm not going to post it.
No, I think,
you don't want to, you always,
I think it was
see that
smart
stuff when you've had a race that doesn't go well.
Yeah, I think it was smart of him to pull out, though. I think that was. I think a lot of people would have tried to push through that and maybe set themselves really, really far back. And Nate's got so much, potential and good fitness that I don't think it was worth ruining it over this one race.
Yeah, and I mean, I talked to him right afterwards, and I was like, "This race is, it does not matter at all, right? He would have been, 10:30 or 10:45. That's just it doesn't matter that much. There's nothing there. He wasn't gonna get a Kona spot, and with that time, just because I think he, had a rough bike or whatever it is, and it's just yep, it's not, it's not that important. So.
Mm-hmm.
The big scheme of things.
Hopefully he can recover and we'll see him in Santa Cruz maybe. So
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if he's planning on doing that one.
I'm trying to convince
or not,
him.
but
Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Nice. When do you get back into town, Matt?
So the next step for us is we're actually going to go to Victoria Island for a little while. This town called Sanook or something like that. I don't even know. I basically, was so geared up for this Ironman race. I wasn't really looking past it, and my wife and her sister were making all these plans for afterwards, and I was just like, after the Ironman? Okay, don't care. Whatever.
By the way.
And so, so now it's I guess we're really going on some additional trip to this, and so I won't be back until Friday, I don't think. So hopefully I will be in studio on Monday.
Cool.
Nice.
Right on. Okay, well, let's move on. Mr. Evan.
I've got a pretty short one over here. I last weekend was in Bend for we'll call it a altitude training camp, I guess. If it's 3 days counts as a training camp.
We teased you about it last week on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we already give you a hard time.
In case anybody's wondering, I still suck at altitude, but it was good to get kind of exposed to that sensation again. Not that I'm under any inclination that you actually adapt in 3 days to altitude, which you do not at all. But I did need to kind of get up around that 6,000 foot mark and train pretty hard up there. So it went well though, honestly. I definitely, Matt will kind of chuckle about this. I had set really high goals for a long run on Sunday morning, and somehow went kind of according to plan, but not even close to how it was supposed to go.
It fell apart a little bit.
Oh, it did. So Cassie will find this very, very funny. She was my bike pace and giving me Coke and Red Bull the entire time, which is usually what I take on the course. So we were trying to simulate that. And, she was playing
music. She's following you on the bike.
She was leading me on the bike and playing music too, which is most important.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, music was most important there. But I tried.
That's really nice.
Oh, it is. And Matt, you'll find this funny. So I tried to plan a flat route. So we went around Elk Lake, which is pretty high up. But what I had forgotten about Elk Lake is it actually does climb around Elk Lake a decent amount. So I do a 3-mile warm up, moving pretty well. The goal was going to be a 6x5 minute effort at sub race pace.
Okay.
So with about 2 minutes recovery each. Now, of course, my really dumb planning didn't realize that obviously at altitude it takes a little bit longer to recover if you're not exposed to that. And the first interval went up about 250 feet. So pacing wise kind of threw me off a little bit.
But it's about the effort.
Oh yeah. And it basically it became only about the effort at that point.
Instead of the certain pace. Yeah.
Heart rate skyrocketed and Cassie had asked me go into the second interval. She's like, okay, you guys start your second interval. I was like, this entire thing's going to be an interval. So at that point, it was just trying to hold as close to 6 minute pace as you possibly can. And I was able to, but oh my God, it hurt. So yeah,
that's good. It'll make you stronger.
Oh yeah, altitude is still a thing. So yeah, that's what I found out last weekend.
Are you trying to get ready for Boulder 70.3?
Yeah, kind of.
I think Boulder's at like 5,000 feet or 6,000 feet.
Roughly around 5,000. I think is where the reservoir is.
Okay.
It's gonna be a tough race. I have 3 races coming up. I do Boulder this next weekend. And then at the end of August, I do a race in Michigan, and then culminating with Santa Cruz in California the first weekend in September. So for me, really, it's all just building up to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Now, I am not the person who ever says I have a B race. Every race is an A race. I'm not going to pretend like I can go into any of these races with a B race and even be somewhat respectable in them. I have to have an A race every race. But I'm under no predisposition that Boulder is going to be a hard race for me. So yeah,
the thing about Boulder is everyone's there.
Yes.
Yeah. That race is going to be just going to be very competitive.
Which I think will be good for me because hopefully I'll be able to come out with a swim pack and my bike fitness is good right now. So I'm hoping that there will be it won't be like Chattanooga where I get spit out the back and I'm basically racing by myself till the run. So I'm hoping I don't have to make up a ton of time on the run because that may not happen. But yeah, there was my back pedal was a little bit of a forward pedal actually.
I like it.
Yeah, nothing excited happened this last week.
Lance, back pedal for us.
Well, I had a quite eventful and big week. I trained almost 19 hours.
I saw that.
Yeah, over almost 320 miles on the bike. So and I raced a couple of times, which was really quite fun and interesting. Monday night we had short track mountain bike race, and Jake and I got out there together, and we kind of laid into each other a little bit.
Lance beat me again. Just say it, Lance.
Yes, I did beat Jake again.
This was our own little like mountain bike rumble sort of competition on the podcast.
Well, I was for the first lap. I was sitting on Jake's wheel, and the leader was kind of getting away from us, and I'm like, Jake, one of us has to go with him. We need to go with him. And it was like, I don't know, a quarter lap later, Jake's like, Lance, just go. Just go around me. And so I went around Jake, and I just about reeled him in. I got within like 3 seconds of him, and then he just got the fear in his eyes and rode away from me. But I did end up taking second place and just a few seconds behind the leader, and Jake was just a few seconds behind me.
I was all relatively close. I think we're all like 6 or 7 seconds spaced out.
Yes.
I just didn't have the bullets in me. I don't know what my problem is. I think I'm still just trying to get fitness back, and your fitness is coming back quite rapidly. So you're looking good, Lance.
It's been coming on here the last few weeks. So that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of teammates out there. We had a lot of fun. Tonight is the last night with the big relay event, and super looking forward to that. We're gonna have some fun tonight, so it should be good.
Now,
for a good back pedal next week.
How long does short track go for?
It's a 7-week series.
8 weeks.
Tonight,
Okay.
8 week series.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
And tonight's the last night.
I thought that final finale was coming up there soon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it should be exciting. We've got a bunch of
Fireworks.
relay teams. Yeah, some fireworks. And in our category, Danny Weichel is running away with it. We can't catch him. Jake is firmly in second, and we can't catch him. And then me and 2 teammates are all battling for that third podium spot.
That's going to be some inner fighting right there. Is the team going to have to choose sides on who they want to support?
We're all just it's me and Chris Weirman and Terry Hamness. We all kind of have a shot at that third podium spot, and we all, I love those guys. We all just kind of race to have fun. We're just going to go out there and race. We're just going to have fun.
Anything could happen at any moment, though, with that group of 3 of you.
Yes, it could.
If the weather stays cool, like it is right now, like if it stays cool going into this evening, Weirman turns into a beast when the weather gets cool. He becomes a whole nother animal out there, and he's due. Terry Hamness is super smooth, and he's been working on his fitness, and he's getting closer and closer. That could happen. Lance is getting strong and fast right now. And of all 3 of these people, mechanicals can happen. Stupid little things can happen. You never know. So you got to go. You got to show up. Yeah. That's why we have the race.
It's explosive racing.
Yeah.
Very short. And that's the thing is it just takes one of the right moves on a short race like that. Just one good 30-second effort.
It will, it's 35 minutes of max effort.
Yeah.
But that's considering you don't crash, go off course, or have a mechanical. And any one of those 3 things could happen.
Or just feel off that day.
Or just
we can
feel
have
off.
an off day. I mean, Lance just rode over 15 hours, you said, or 18 hours?
18. Almost 19 hours.
Yeah. You could. I mean, you've had
I could be flat.
fatigue built up over the last 3. You could come out and be flat as a pancake tonight. So.
Well, that's not the spirit, Jake. Come on.
I'm just saying, anything can happen.
You never know.
You know what? I was thinking about this last night, how much fun it's going to be. And I'm half thinking because I can't lose second place. So it doesn't matter if I come in first or last. I still have second place in the podium. I might just let all 3 of these guys come around me, and I'll sit back there with my GoPro and do play-by-play and yell and scream at them. Make something funny of it. So
just try to interject yourself at certain moments. Yeah. Bring back anybody who's losing pace.
Nancy Poo, he's catching on you.
It's going to be exciting. It should be fun tonight, so I'm looking forward to it. That was Monday night.
Lance, so you have this race and then this one coming up or whatever, and then do you have any travels planned coming up?
I probably have some trips kind of tentatively planned.
Loosely planned.
Yeah, loosely planned. This was the race I didn't really want to miss. There is a crit next weekend that I kind of want to do as well, possibly.
Is that the red line
crit?
crit?
The red line crit.
Yep.
But I don't know. I mean, 2 of my daughters are going to be driving across the country to Florida, and I might join them.
You guys want to make a stop in Colorado?
Do you know when you know when they're taking off?
No, I'm not positive about that. So, that'll be sometime in August, which is right on our heels here. So, so I might be doing a little bit of traveling, but it's all kind of all plans are soft with me.
Yeah.
Itinerary open.
It's a pretty open schedule.
Yeah. So there was 2 other kind of crazy things that happened this week. I did race at Portland International Raceway on Tuesday night. It is a circuit race, about a 30-mile circuit race, and I was there leading out or trying to lead out a teammate, Ian Gibson, to try to keep him in the podium position for the month of July.
Ian's had a great year so far.
He has had a good year. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I actually, after working really hard Monday night, I felt really good on Tuesday. I'm not really exactly sure why, but I had some power in my legs that night and was feeling really good. Led Ian out on several sprints, and I actually didn't quite mean to do this, but on the very last final sprint, as I was leading him out, he didn't quite get around me. I wasn't standing and sprinting. I was just head down. Jake took some pictures. He was out there taking pictures, and you can see as I'm coming up to the line, I'm like looking to my right and left, like, where is Ian? He should be passing me. And I kind of sat up a little bit, but he didn't quite get me. But he had scored some points in the hot laps. There was a bit of an incident in the race as well. There was a very bad accident on the third hot lap, and a fellow racer, Bob Poole, actually had some pretty serious injuries that are going to take him a while to recover from. And we were super sorry to see that happen. And that happens in bike racing and tight bike racing and when you're sprinting for things sometimes. And so...
and Bob's a pretty strong sprinter,
very
too,
strong sprinter, yeah. So I was leading out Ian. I was at the head of the field, and three of us kind of tangled a little bit, and Bob ended up hitting the wall, and that's why he got hurt, which was really unfortunate. I don't know what more we should say about that other than we really hope the best for Bob and for his recovery. There is a GoFundMe page for him to help him cover some of his medical and bike repair costs to help. So we certainly are looking out for you, Bob, and love you and hope that you recover well from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, just tough bike racing right there, but definitely people should go on to that GoFundMe and give him some help. Yeah.
Yep.
That's part of being the part of this bike racing community.
Yep, for sure.
The rest of the week, I rode like 50 miles every day just because, I don't know.
Hey, Jake, you want to go on a recovery ride with me? And I hook up with him, and he's already like 30 miles in his ride. I'm like, that's not a recovery ride, pal.
No.
That's it.
God.
And then on Saturday, we had the ride around Clark County, which is a big organized event. I don't know. There were 1,000 cyclists out there or something like that. I don't know how many.
I don't think there were that many. Their attendance was down a little bit this year. I think they were closer to like
the weather
300 to 500 range.
Okay.
According to what some of the people, I don't know how many people signed up the day of. That's why I'm saying it could have been up to 500.
Yeah,
but I think it was more like in that 350 to 400 range. So
we had a good group of about 15 guys that started together. A bunch from the team and others from the Dallas Hiking Club that just wanted to come ride with us. We were doing the 100-mile ride. Jake and I rode together with several other solid teammates. And I don't know, probably 25 miles in, we lost most of the group except for 8 of us.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people knew that was going to happen, and they said, we're just going to try and hang out with you guys as long as we possibly can. But what was nice is the ones that did fall off, a lot of them stayed together. They rode together, so they kind of naturally developed a B group. So
yeah,
that's good.
The course was marked great. There were great aid stations. It drizzled on us at the beginning, and that scared some people away, but then it warmed up, and it just was...
Well, it was more than a drizzle there for a while. I took quite a bit of road spray, and that was disgusting.
Yeah, it was really slimy road spray.
Slimy and foamy, and it was just gross.
But our group, we averaged about 20 miles an hour for the 100 miles, even with stopping and taking some easy sections. But I don't know, about 80 miles in, I just started to feel good.
Yeah.
So we ended up, 5 of us ended up kind of breaking away at the end and just hammered the last like 15, 18 miles at like 26 or 27 miles an hour.
Oh,
so
geez.
It was crazy, which was good for me, mostly because I'm not a climber and I got dropped on both the big climbs.
Yeah.
But this has never happened before. I was able to catch back on.
Yeah, he rallied on pretty strong.
How'd you feel going up that? What's that last climb up in Philida? It's a short climb, but it's kind of a leg stinger.
It's just super steep. Yeah.
Were you able to make it up that one?
I did. I made it up that without cramping, and that's probably the first time that I've made up without cramping.
I was gonna say, if you're racing
racing.
like over 100 miles, that last climb and fly is gonna suck. Yeah. That is a stinger.
Yeah, on paper, it doesn't look terrible, but when you're in the moment,
you're like, I find that's at like mile 82. So
it's at like mile 92.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, even later in the ride. Yeah.
And it's like 14% or something like that.
I think it actually make it up over 14%, but
so
it's a fun climb.
Anyway, we had a great time. Jake and I rode together for most of that, and it was really fun to ride with those teammates. So a solid day.
Good times. Cool. Yeah, I'll make mine pretty short and sweet. Lance already went through most of it. We had the short track. That's fun. I'm really looking forward to tonight. We're going to have 3 relay teams out there. So
3 10-person relay teams.
That's pretty awesome. And we'll have other teammates out there who aren't on a team or one of the relay teams. I think they'll stand in as alternates in case something happens to somebody. But that's really good, race registration for us. I mean, we're putting a lot of people out there, and I think we should be able to hold on to that team competition again. I think we have a 900-point lead, and if we're going to bring 30-plus people out there to race tonight, I don't see another team being able to touch that. So
that's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Knock on wood.
I think that lead's going to stay.
Looking good, looking good. Just more riding with Lance this week. It was, just another great week of riding. Did the little fog hat ride on Friday. That was fun having some new people out there. And we have our first August fog hat ride this coming Friday, which will be our little social ride that we're going to do every Friday. Will be the first of the last 4, and it's going to be the ugliest kit competition. There will be a little prize for those that want to come out and do that. So, but anyhow, the rack was fun. I wanted to have a good training effect. I knew I was going to have some cramping issues. Because I haven't done any long rides since team training camp, and it just happens to me almost every single time. And I hung in there for pretty damn long until it actually happened. And I was probably close to the century mark when it happened, because I started the day by riding 15 miles to the start of the ride. And I remember there was just a point where we got a little bit separated at a stop sign, and I had to wait for a couple cars, and the group got away. And I'm like, I'll just go catch up to them. We'll just keep riding. Went to get out of the saddle to catch you guys, and it's like, there it is. And it just cramped up on that medial quad. And I'm like, this is going to suck. So I pacelined as best as I could to catch up to you. And I got pretty close until we got to some rollers, and then I had to get into it again, and it started to cramp again. And then again, just was yo-yoing off the back, and then I connected with Mike Guyvan, who was pretty much done. He'd done the little KOM chasing early in the ride, so he and I just came in 4 or 5 minutes after you guys. Yeah. So that was good riding. Another 15-mile ride home. So 130 miles for me on the day.
That's huge.
Longest ride of the year. So my shoulder was pretty damn tired, and it was sore the next day. But 2 days later, it's feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
So
good.
I'll be out there.
It's handling short track, and it's handling a 130-mile ride. That's solid. Yeah, that's very good.
Can't complain too much. So it was a fun week. Leadout news. Let's wrap up this little Tour de France. Hey Matt, put your hand up in the air. I'm going to give you a virtual high five. Way to go, buddy.
The right hand doesn't go up very high.
Left hand. I've got my
left hand up. Yep.
Wait, Matt had picked Egan Bernal, right?
Yep. So did I.
Oh, yeah.
So,
guess who didn't? Me and Lance.
So myself and Matt were the winner chicken dinner guys.
So some cool stats on Bernal there. He from a cycle crazy country like Colombia, he is the first Colombian to win the Tour de France, which means that guy is never going to have to buy a meal in his home country ever again. That country is so happy right now.
22 years old.
22.
That is just absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
How many more tours is this kid going to win?
So first, before we get into that, who here thinks he's the youngest Tour winner? Got an interesting little stat here.
Since post World War II, he is.
He is. So he is, but the guy who was the youngest Tour winner was 19. And he only won the Tour because the first 4 guys were suspended, disqualified.
Wasn't that like 1903 though?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I actually think it was. Yeah, I forget the year, but it was long enough ago. I think everybody can say he was the youngest Tour winner.
We're just going to say
we're just going to say that he was the youngest Tour winner.
So Egan Bernal has the potential to be one of the greatest Tour riders of all time, knowing what he did, and he's still ripening up. I mean,
he's so young.
Okay, and here's another little factoid for you. You've got Chris Froome sending out shouts to him, and you've got him really rallying hard. I mean, he is ahead of schedule with his rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Just to remind you, Chris Froome broke his neck, his femur, his elbow, his hip, and his ribs.
Yeah.
He's back on the trainer now.
Yeah.
And this was how many months ago? 2 months ago? Mm-hmm. That is insane.
That's crazy.
That is a lot of pain right there. And that's a lot of, you have to let those bones set, but he's already back on the trainer doing like one-legged stuff, but he's on the trainer getting ready. So he's already saying he'll be back next year. And I don't doubt him for 1 second. So when you think about that, you're going to have the last 3 Tour winners
on the same
riding
team.
Together on the same team.
Yep.
How insane is that?
Who's the leader at the Tour?
Yeah, who knows?
Bernal. Bernal.
It was really cool to see how excited Geraint Thomas was. For him. Even though he took second by only,
minute 12 seconds.
A minute 12 seconds.
Yeah. He looked strong all tour.
Yeah, he was just like so happy.
Proved us
for
wrong because
Bernal.
I thought for sure Thomas was going to not even be in. I thought he was going to be like, where some of the guys creeping at the end of the back top 10 were. But yeah.
He held his own. And I kind of had a sneaking suspicion, me personally, that Bernal was going to be the one that they were going to support based on some of the things that you were reading and seeing and hearing about Thomas being just a touch heavier and maybe not. He's still a diesel motor, man. He's still chugged
Climbed
away
incredibly well.
But that's testament to Egan Bernal how much talent that kid has at such a young age. So
this is why I don't even think it matters what Froome comes back to form-wise, and if Thomas comes back with a vengeance next year, I think Bernal will be the leader at the Tour for the next couple of years for Ineos.
Possibly, or it could be Froome just being like the leader on paper, but not who they support. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
let's let the guys just kind of roll out and see who's feeling great, and then we'll end up supporting the person that's in the best position. I don't think you need to put your stamp on any one person. That's just media that wants to hear that.
Yeah,
the team, I think they've got a good approach.
Yeah. Now here's the question: if Dave Brailsford does not stay around with Team Ineos, let's say this guy retires.
Who's that?
David Brailsford
Manager.
is the manager of Team Sky Team Ineos. Okay. Yeah, has been like the architect behind British cycling's rise, basically. Polarizing figure, hate or love him, he's incredible as a manager.
Sure.
So if he does not stay on with Team Ineos, whether he retires, moves on to another team, anything, what happens to that team? What happens to Bernal, do you think?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with whether or not Froome or Thomas stick around too, because I think that those guys get it. They've got this team mantra, and everybody's bought into it, rightfully so, because it's working well. If you've got one of those guys that's kind of like the captain of the team, that's kind of keeping that mantra alive, he could stick around, and he's going to want to stick around because who has the biggest budget in cycling?
Right.
Team Ineos, yeah.
So where are you going to stay? I mean, one of these other teams is going to pony up a crap ton of money for him potentially, but what are they going to have to support him so that he can become the greatest cyclist of all time?
Yeah. I think the only way this goes wrong is if he goes to Trek. That's the only way that he could screw this up, is if Trek ponies up enough money to convince him to go there, and he'll guarantee never win a Tour again if he goes to Trek.
Yeah. I don't think that'll happen. The other interesting thing, this Tour favored climbers over time trialists a little bit more because the time trial was fairly short, and that's one thing that Bernal is still developing. He's gotten a whole lot better as a time trialist.
He did have a strong time, but it was also a climber's time trial too.
But he's not a super great time trialist, and that's generally what the Tour winners get. So I think that's the only knock on Bernal winning 4 more Tours is
true.
How much of an effect is that time trial going to play in the next few years?
And you look at how the Tour advanced too. He really, it was kind of a weak competition Tour comparatively to what it could have been. You look at there were some big names not there. Tom Dumoulin wasn't there. If you have a time trial heavy Tour, guys like Thomas and Dumoulin and Froome are going to be the names you look at. I think Quintana didn't have half the Tour he was capable of. You look at Pinot.
I think he's done.
I think Pinot was absolutely in position to be somebody who could climb with Bernal on those big stages. But had a bad quad contusion that took him out eventually. Fuglsang, I think, was in great form and just had bad luck. You look at and it's a Tour. So the Tour de France, if you have bad luck, it's on you because that's how the Tour is.
Right.
But if you look at all of those contenders, if they all stay, maybe that win doesn't happen as smoothly.
Well, here's another thing too. But look at stage. What was it? The rain shortened stage.
The one that people are going to be talking about forever. Yeah.
So
19. Yeah.
everybody is saying, without a shadow of a doubt, that Bernal was going to put even more time into everybody on the final climb. He didn't even get a chance to open it up. I mean, he separated himself, yes. Mm-hmm. How much more time would he put into that?
Yeah.
I mean, so
that's true. But
that's a good point.
I'm just saying, like, if Pinot's there, I think Pinot stays with him.
True.
For most of those climbs, yeah.
True.
So here's the
all speculation.
And the other thing, just wrapping up the tours. I mean, what a performance from Alaphilippe!
Fantastic,
incredible.
Yeah.
Like, that guy should be everybody's favorite rider now.
Yeah, it's just really cool.
He's like Peter Sagan. Like, you should love this guy, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, if you love bike racing, you love him. Yeah.
14 days in yellow. That was super impressive for a guy that had
He looked tired.
No misses.
That guy looked so tired by the
Do you
end.
think he's sitting at home right now, wherever he's at, trying to figure out how can I make that stick next time? Or do you think he just knows that that's just not in his cards?
I think he knows it's not in his cards.
Okay.
He's such a good one-day racer and world championship sort of guy.
But just thinking about the fact that he's out there doing all of his own work, he doesn't have a domestique to tow him around. He doesn't have somebody to go back to the car to get him bottles or nutrition.
Yeah.
Does that change anything? Or do you think that it just is what it is and he just was like Cinderella for 14 days?
I would love to say that next year, like a great dark horse pick would be Alaphilippe.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think when you got into those high mountains, as that elevation picked up, I think his weakness was shown there.
Yeah.
And weakness is a bad word there, but just he's not that pure climber type late in a Grand Tour yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if he's ever going to quite develop into that because the guy races so much harder through the year than those Grand Tour riders do.
Okay. So who's the better cyclist? Him being like all Mr. All Around guy that can do just about everything great, or somebody that's just a little skinny climber guy who's a better all around cyclist?
Alaphilippe for sure.
What do you think, Matt?
Valverde, man, that guy was so impressive.
Yeah, I love Valverde. That's a good
There's
pick.
that.
Yeah.
No,
Van
Julian
Aert is my
Alaphilippe was super
answer.
impressive. He's definitely that all-around rider, but that's not always what you need as a GC contender. And I think if he could be one of those guys that goes home, thinks about it, changes his complete training structure, and it's like, I'm going to try and make this stick like that. And still, right? Like we all agree that this was kind of a weak tour. Like no matter what, like even these guys that have had these great races, I still don't think that they're guaranteed anything next year. There's just so much talent that was not there. And by was not there, I mean like some guys weren't fit like they typically are. Past tour winners that were maybe winning stages, but weren't necessarily, in the GC contentions whatsoever. I think next year's going to be completely different. I mean, I think we're definitely going to be talking about Egan Bernal, but I don't know that we're going to be talking about Julian Alaphilippe as a contender.
Well, I wonder if the tour organizers will try to build the tour to favor Alaphilippe a little bit.
The poor French people, like what a French way to end this tour for them is like they haven't had a winner since Bernard Hinault, and it was the early 1980s. I mean, they are coming up on, it's not that far away from 40 years since they've won a tour.
Right.
They are going to basically just build one-day races. Like, they're just going to repeat, like, what the Ardennes Classics look like so that Alaphilippe has a chance to win. They're going to take all time trials out.
Right.
Well, no, actually,
Alaphilippe
won the time trial. So they just need they're going to do that same exact time trial course and just make the climbs all at sea level.
That'll start altering weather patterns.
Yeah,
so they can cut stages short. Oh, sorry, got to cut it short.
Oh, I'm sorry. At the top of the climb, there was this random landslide that we definitely caused ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a good little conspiracy thing. What if that landslide was caused by somebody who saw Bernal breaking away there?
Get the dynamite.
Yes, exactly. Got to blow the side of the mountain.
Okay, I'm going to throw a couple things out there, and I just want you guys' quick reaction on this real quick. Team Jumbo-Visma. What's your thoughts on that team?
Fantastic. They won 4 stages,
something like that,
4 or 5 stages. That they got that many stages is fantastic.
They go toe to toe with Team Ineos next year, I bet, and they make the race exciting.
Yes.
I think it's going to be Visma versus Team Ineos, and it's going to be fireworks.
Yep. Matt, did you have any?
I honestly thought that was one of the biggest stories of the tour. It was like, who is this team? Like I feel like they haven't really been on my radar. I always, in my mind, pictured like Team Sky versus like Movistar. Like those are the two teams that I always thought were like in contention. And Movistar's always fantastic. They usually win like the team title, but not Jumbo-Visma. I mean, that was not on my radar, and they did fantastic this season. So I think they're one of the big stories for the tour for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing Wout come back. He's still in the hospital, by the way. From the last, I was reading last night. He's still in the hospital recovering from that.
That poor guy.
Holy cow.
Do you think cross nationals are still?
That's not till like January. He'll be back.
You think so?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, there's going to be some rehab process there, and there's fatigue, and he's getting deconditioned.
I just so hope this is not the last time that we see him at this level. That would be truly tragic.
It's just like a muscle. It was like a muscle. He like filleted his
that's
his
basically
quad
what he
open
did.
basically.
Yeah.
So it I don't know.
Okay, another one. Caleb Ewing, best sprinter in the peloton right now.
He's a scary sprinter.
Yeah.
He's so fast, but he's like on the verge of out of control.
Yeah.
Every time.
Back tires flopping
His
all over
back
the
wheel's
place.
all over the place. Yeah.
And he's like got his nose on his front wheel practically.
Yeah.
You know, this.
Yep.
I'm not going to say best sprinter in the peloton right now yet. Because, I mean, the Jumbo Visma sprinter, Grudewagen, is incredible, too.
Yeah.
And young. So, yeah.
How explosive is that kid, though? I mean, he's
incredible.
Even like yesterday.
That last win was awesome.
Yeah, it's like, all right, he's not in it.
Shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, just exploded. Another 22-year-old. I mean, years to come, and they were comparing him to that of Mark Cavendish. Do you think he's another Cavendish kind of guy?
Yeah. I mean, he sprints like Cavendish. He positions himself maybe even a little bit better than Cavendish did at that age. I mean, when you watch the line he took in Paris yesterday, he basically swung from the left line around to the right line and came around and somehow won. I mean, it was incredible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just so much faster.
Yeah.
At the end,
quick.
he's so much faster. And that's just weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what his stats are in terms of like his height and his stature?
God,
like his height and his
what's
weight?
he like?
He's
4 foot
5'4".
flat.
No, he's 5'4".
Guys, he's a little micro.
He is a little, Minnie Mouse.
A
Yeah.
pocket rocket. Is that what they were calling him?
5'4".
Yeah.
God.
Okay, my last question for you guys, and then I'll let you guys ask any that you have. Biggest flop of the tour?
My pick. Bardet.
Bardet?
He still won the
King of the
Mountains.
He was the
King of the
hope of France, and he had to settle for getting random intermediate climbs on breakaway days. I mean, do not get me wrong. Winning the polka dot jersey is incredible. Like, it's amazing. But that guy was supposed to be right there for France.
Yeah.
He was pretty sorry sight there for a while.
Yeah.
How about you, Lance? Do you have
Nibali?
Well, he went into it saying that he wasn't there to win. He said, "I'm just here to win stages."
He says that
And
all the time, though.
He won the big one at the end. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he won
Yeah,
one stage.
Yeah, 'cause he was
did he
saving
win two?
himself.
No, he won one.
Was it just one? I thought it was two. Gotcha. Matt, do you have any flop picks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got lots of them. I mean, I'd say Fabio Aru should be considered, right? Like, he had
that's a good
I think
one.
he was in the mix and just never did anything. TJ Van Garden, another bad tour.
Yeah.
So he would be one that I would definitely say, like, I mean, I feel for him.
Yeah.
I really feel for him. He has had so much bad luck at the tour.
Yep. Richie
So
Porte.
I don't know if you call that a flop, though.
Richie Porte,
When
another
people crash out, do we call it a flop, or do we just say, like, that's just bad luck?
Oh, he did flop on the ground.
Well, but also, like, I mean, on the stages before that mattered. He wasn't performing, so I don't think it matters, crash or not. He was not going to be there. Yeah.
Well, it was fun to watch. And this morning I got up. It was about 5:45 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, no tour.
Yep.
Dang it. I know. It's always the saddest part. This is like, it's
Day 22.
I know, got to wait for the Vuelta now. But this is the thing, is the Vuelta is always very exciting, too. I love watching the Vuelta.
Yeah, we'll get into that at a later time.
Yeah.
All right. Unless you guys have anything else to add to this, let's move on. Our topic, all the small things.
All the
Small
things.
And by that, I want us
Yes,
to
it
discuss. The reason why I thought of this is I've just been thinking about, like, when I go out on my rides, I'm doing all these little things, and I'm doing them so that I can get myself back into shape as I'm trying to recover. And I'm like, these things are working pretty well for me, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of hearkening back to me in my early years when I'm trying to develop skills, and they're just like these dumb little mundane things that you do, and you try and master them, and then you move on to something else, or doing things a little bit differently, or just I wanted to be able to share with our listeners things that we do that maybe they can buy into and that they can utilize as they try and further along their cycling career or their even triathlon stuff. I mean, if it's a little triathlon hack too, that's great. There's little sayings or quotes out there like dripping water hollows the stone, not through force but through persistence. I mean, it's just doing little things like that continuously over and over and over again that's going to forge out what you're trying to accomplish, as opposed to just staying the course and not trying to do anything and not ever showing any true progress or true gains. And I think a lot of people who listen are trying to make themselves better at their particular sport, whether it be cycling or triathlon or whatever particular sport that you're into. So I wanted to hear from you guys, because that's another thing is I love picking people's brains. I'd like to hear what it is that people are doing. And then sometimes I'll go and tinker with those things and see if there's a practical application to me and go from there. A lot of times that's where I've learned a lot of this stuff. So, sound good? You guys want to give it a go?
Yeah, there's some good ones. This is a good little topic because this is the stuff that it's interesting to hear what everybody kind of has, you know?
Yeah.
Like those little things. And I think that's where, you know, when you're talking about like what would be questions that you would ask like Peter Sagan, for example.
Sure.
I wouldn't ask him like what his overall training plan looks like. I'm
Peter
never going to be able to touch
how
that.
the hell do you do a wheelie like that?
Yeah, exactly. Or like where do you position yourself for a sprint? Like
Yeah.
how do you even think about where you want to go?
And what is it that you do to work on that? So, you know, I get asked these questions all the time as well. Not only am I going back and trying to retrain myself on certain things, we work with so many juniors and so many people who are just new to the sport. They ask these questions all the time. So let's record it. Let's put it out there and let's let people listen to what we have to say. And if you're listening to this and you are thinking, wow, you know what, they didn't mention this and this is something that's worked really well for me, share it with us.
Oh yeah.
And we say that stuff all the time. Sometimes it just sounds like it's in jest, but no, it's honest and sincere. We want to hear from you. Go to the Dialed Podcast Facebook page or drop us an email, info@dialedpodcast, or hit us up on Instagram. Wherever, just let us know what you're thinking.
Please.
So, Evan, you're kind of over there bouncing a little bit. You look like you
I've
have
got
something to say.
I've got one like in my head because I was working on it literally this morning.
Go for it.
So I've been trying to, and Matt, I know that I think you have done a video on this, or you and me have talked about this, but the kind of hand stacked position in the time trial position. Did you have a video on that earlier when you were talking about positioning? Yeah. So I've brought in my arrow pads.
I don't think we've made a video yet.
Okay, I know that this is a position that you try to get yourself in as well, though, is where you're kind of in that hand stacked position in the arrow bars.
Well, I mean, right. So I think the whole point is like get narrow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've been making little adjustments on my time trial bike right now, bringing the pads in a little bit more, getting those hands closer to stacked, and really tucking my neck in or the back of my head. So that kind of the rear part of that helmet touches almost your upper back. But yeah, I've been really subtly working on that as much as possible to try to see how long I can hold that position. I mean, when you're talking about little things, like if you're doing a time trial for 2 hours or so, if you're able to bring your frontal area in a little bit, that can save me 5 watts over that, which is massive once you get onto that run. So yeah, that's been a little thing I'm working on.
Okay, so Evan, a little trick to piggyback onto this. I haven't done this before, but this is definitely something that we should play with. Some coaches will have their pro athletes put like a very small magnet in the back of their pointy helmet, and so they know that when that pointy part hits their back jersey, like with a piece of metal there, you know, so you have a magnet and a piece of metal, that it'll basically click. So you feel the click, and that's like the head position, and it's all a matter of kind of training the head position.
We should,
because you want, so for people, this is like super deep dive, right? But you basically don't want a gap between your aero helmet and your back, because it creates like a low pressure system, and it's just additional drag. And the whole point of kind of that pointy helmet is to kind of reduce that, you know, low pressure piece and reduce drag as the air goes like from this huge head, like one of the biggest pieces that's hitting the wind, you know, smoothing it out and, you know, dragging it across the back. So it's kind of interesting to kind of think like, hey, that's supposed to be laid flat back there. And if you see people that have that big gap, which I know I have that in mind, it's something I think that we could potentially work on.
I like it. It's that tucked in position.
So
all about
maybe we should play with it.
Yeah.
Maybe we should play with that.
That would be a cool drill to do for sure.
Right on. Lance.
Oh, maybe we should make a video too.
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
We're
gonna try nerd out over here now.
Lance, you got any for us?
One of the things that I try to do is, and we've talked about this before, is watch YouTube videos. Since Matt's talking about making a new one, but I watch YouTube videos on bike racing strategy, on like like sprinting position, sprinting strategy, crit racing strategy. You know, all these things that you try to learn by actually going and racing. But man, there's a bunch of videos out there that you can learn a lot by not actually having to race, but actually using that, you know, downtime of yours to watch those. So I think YouTube has helped me a lot, just trying to visualize what I'm supposed to be doing and then going out and trying to do it. It's always very different when you actually try to do it. But if I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing in the first place, in like a sprint train or in trying to lead somebody out, or trying to follow somebody's wheel, or trying to take a corner properly, or the quickest way to take a corner. And there's I think all those things.
It's tough information to come by. You're not going to learn it while in an actual race. It's just not going to happen unless you're like being very observant and you're just kind of like the fly on the wall, if you will,
right.
Watching how it all transpires. That's kind of the same as watching it on YouTube.
It's like watching your film.
When you're watching on YouTube, you're at least not like, heart rate of 185 beats per minute and like all over the place because you're trying to pay attention to something. You can really start to assimilate that. And I like that. The only other place that you're really going to learn that is if you've got a well-structured team that's going to go out and work on that kind of stuff in a camp or a clinic or just drills. But even then, there are very few teams that actually do that. It's more of just like, hey, just come out and race and you'll figure it out. That's not always the best, most practical way to go about this.
One of the things I see, especially riding with teammates who are when we're trying to ride fast together, is there's always 3 or 4 guys that don't corner well.
Correct.
That don't pick the line through the corner very well. Don't try to go, apex to apex and cut it kind of as tight as you can.
Yeah.
And it's funny, even if you're not moving fast, you can see somebody move 5 places up just by taking the corner properly.
Correctly. And not only did they move 5 places up, they used a hell of a lot less energy.
Right.
And you're saving those bullets for later on when it matters.
Right.
So,
yeah,
pretty common. For me, one of the things that I've been working on a lot lately, just because I'm coming out of this whole rehab process and trying to get my shoulder to actually work with me, is, and I do this mostly on the mountain bike, just because it makes more sense than to see me do this crazy stuff on a road bike. It's just over-exaggerated movements on the bike, so rocking the bike back and forth on steep climbs and really engaging my core, really engaging my traps and my triceps. I mean, you can get a freaking great workout on the mountain bike. It's almost like cross training. You're not necessarily out riding a bike. You're kind of doing a workout, just rocking the bike back and forth. I'll be doing stuff like, I see a stick in the road, like normally just run it over, wouldn't even think about it. I'm going to bunny hop that stick, and it's just that movement. It's that explosive movement coming up just to kind of try and engage your whole upper body. Doing little things like that really pays dividends, and it helps you work on your explosive power. You start to develop strength in ranges of motion while on the bike that will pay off later when it comes to a sprint situation, or when you're coming to like some really tough uphill climbs. You'll learn to engage those muscles a lot more effectively. That will help you become a more efficient climber and a more efficient sprinter. I swear by this stuff. I do it all the time. Again, it would look kind of silly on a road bike unless you're climbing some really deep stuff like that fly to hill, like getting out of the bike and really working it back and forth and engaging all your obliques and whatnot. But it works really well for me, and I was doing it this past week several times, and it's really been helping me. I don't think that I would be near as far along in this rehab process, even though I'm still ways to go, without that stuff. So that's my 2 cents. Matt, you got another one?
I have so many things to work on for sure. One of the things that I think is kind of sad is like how much I kind of just joke about how bad my transitions are on the triathlon side of things. And it's one of those things that doesn't have to be bad. I think, I don't work on it because oftentimes I'm like, okay, well, I'm training for an Ironman race or whatever it is. And it's not quite as important in an Ironman race. And sometimes I think if you haul through transitions, then you can mess things up. But it's something that we could totally work on. And I feel like it would be really interesting to do, some sort of like training camp type thing, or just training session, like a single training session or something like that. Invite a ton of people to work on transitions, talk about different transition tips and tricks and things like that you do, because there are things that you can do to make it faster. And I mean, I just think it would be a really interesting kind of like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a little clinic? I guess you could call it like a transition clinic or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think setting that up, Matt, would be a good. And we've got some young guys on the team, guys and gals on the team now who are, I think, going to be racing some draft legal stuff. So,
oh really? Okay.
When you talk about transitions, that's hugely important in that style of racing.
Yeah. I think the shorter you go, the more important it is. But it's just one of those little things that it's like, hey, you can work on it. You can get better. There's places to improve time.
So just to speak to that, I was out at Hag Lake a couple weekends ago taking pictures, and one of our younger teammates Alex Amparo was out there, and I got a picture of him coming in, and I noticed it when he was coming in that he'd already taken his feet out of his shoe. Yep. His foot was on top of the shoe with the shoe smashed flat, and I knew exactly why he's doing that. Yeah. And my wife was looking at the pictures later on. She's like, what kind of shoe is that? What is he doing there? What is that? And she had no idea. I'm like, oh, he takes his foot out of the shoe so that when he gets off the bike, that's one less thing that you have to do, and it'll save you a few seconds. And she's like, isn't that dangerous? I'm like, well, it takes practice, but it's something that's going to save you time. So little tips and tricks like that people wouldn't necessarily think of are things that can save time. So that's a good point, Matt.
Isn't that why triathlon-specific biking shoes, the Velcro goes the opposite way of normal biking shoes so that you can undo them and they won't get hung up in your chain?
Also, some of them have a heel that can pop back out, so it's easy to slide your foot out. Yeah.
Interesting. Good. All right. I like that. Yep. Evan.
So for me, coming up into this next little block, it's been all about kind of the little things for me. And one of the biggest little things I'm looking at is how to build nutritionally going into an A race. And that's not just day of nutrition, because day of nutrition, we could sit here and argue oh, what's better, Infinite, Hammer, or Tailwind, or, Gatorade. It doesn't really matter. It's very much person dependent, but more about what does your diet look like 2-3 weeks out from a race? What does your diet look like the week of a race? And in triathlon, like we've talked about, it's going to be way different than in cycling, because let's say, Lance, how many times have you raced this year?
28.
I have raced twice, going on to 3. Now, that's not including running races and a bike race tossing there, but we're talking about just triathlons. I have done 2 this year, and I will do 3 after next weekend. So,
just a quick pause. Are you going to do any races here locally so I can come out and watch you?
Not this season. Next season, I definitely want to to plan for it. I wanted to try and race locally, but it was going to be hard this year just with the way that this last block was kind of formulating.
Mr. Too Big Time for everybody here.
That's so not it. Trust me, I'd so much rather be racing local sometimes. But it's really become interesting for me if, I'm racing 3 73s in, 8 weeks, I think, something like that, between August 3rd and September 7th or whatever. That's, a really important thing now to me is how do I recover after these races appropriately without trying to, binge purge too much here through the race cycle, which is very hard to do.
Yeah.
Eating disorders or some, obviously we talk about in this sport a lot, and sometimes they come by accidentally just trying to prepare for races.
Right.
Really, really important in kind of the running world too, just because of gut health with running, which I know Matt can speak specifically to, but.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Lance.
Lube your chain.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my...
Clean your drive chain.
It used to be something I would do weekly. Now, I kind of do it almost before every ride.
As you almost should.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'll clean off the chain with a rag with isopropyl alcohol and then relube it almost before every ride. So,
dang.
And I didn't do that for a long time because you'd think your lube lasts, and probably it lasts longer, but I've, doing a couple of these multi-stage races, and I'm watching all the pros prep in the morning because we're camping together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, every one of them is cleaning their chain and relubing it.
Well, that's a race.
Just did it yesterday.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, you're losing watts. Ask Matt, Mr. Watt, free Watt Friday guy over here. Will tell you, you got to keep that drivetrain clean and smooth. So that's a good one.
That's an easy one to just.
I don't know about every ride though, Lance. Every ride.
Well,
if it's a race,
now I'm being obsessive about it.
So, do you do it before a Fog Out Friday?
Racing, yeah. If you're racing, yes, but you're riding 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's a lot of lubricant.
I'm going through a lot of lubricant.
That is a lot of lubricant. Oh my God. That is
easy. Stay on target. All right, here's another one.
How long does one of those things last you? No, really, how many, if you do that every ride now, do you think,
I'll go through the little 4-ounce bottle of squirt, in 6 weeks or something.
Oh, okay. First time I thought you were going to say like 2 or 3 weeks. I was oh man, that's excessive.
So I'm out on a ride with my wife this past weekend. It was our anniversary. So we went out and did a little anniversary ride per my wife's request. That's what she wanted to do.
Nice.
It wasn't what
That's
I wanted to
awesome.
do. Well, it is what I wanted to do, but I wasn't going to say that. She wanted to do it. So we went out on a little anniversary ride. And it was a recovery ride for me, I guess, because we weren't going very fast. So that's just what I called it. And I'm just going to go out there and have fun with her. And she had a blast. But while we're out there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to start working on these little things. So like recovery rides don't have to be just there sitting in and doing nothing. I was working on like different things. So in this moment, we come up to a stop sign and she's unclipped and I'm sitting there working on my track stand. You know, that's a perfect time to work in that kind of stuff. And she said, why are you doing that? I'm like, well, watch me. I don't have to clip back in, and I'm working on my balance.
Yeah.
And then we're riding again through one of the neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, I think we were probably kind of close to your house, Matt. And we're riding along the road and there's the curb and then there's like a little grassy knoll and then there's the sidewalk. Well, every time a driveway would come down, I would drive into the driveway, right into the driveway, dip the depression. And then I would try and ride on the curb between the road and the grass that's raised. And I try and go for as long as I can in a straight line, working on my sighting and working on my balance and trying not to fall into the grass or back on. And those are just little things that I'm doing to work on sighting and balance. And it all lends itself really well to bike handling skills.
Yeah.
So little things like that, or riding with newbies don't do this, but riding with no hands, there's a functional reason why you need to ride with no hands. When you're in a race, if you've got to put on a vest or if you got to get something out of your jersey pocket or what have you, being able to ride without having your hands on the handlebars is a good skill to have. So you
please don't do that on your time trial bike,
Not
folks.
on your time trial bike.
Not, ask Chris for him. Do not do it on your time trial bike.
Remember all those broken bones we talked about? Yeah. So those are little things that you can do on like easy rides. Go out and work on your balance. It's easy stuff. Matt, hit us with another one.
I think I'll just hop on, Jake's suggestion for kind of these little bike skill set pieces. One thing that I used to do kind of very, very regularly, kind of as part of either a cool down to a workout, would be kind of pedal drills where I would do some single leg stuff. And I think that stuff helps. And I'm not sure if it helps when you're a new cyclist. I do think it helps when you're a new cyclist. I'm not sure it helps if you're more of an experienced cyclist or if it was more beneficial because I was newer to cycling. But it's something that I've been neglecting lately, and it's not hard to do, but you do kind of, I think it smooths out your pedal stroke just a little bit, and I think it's worth doing. And I think it's something that I should personally, reincorporate into, cool downs to workouts or whatever it is, something easy to kind of incorporate, just because I want to see if it's still helpful. I know it was in the past.
Yeah, I have a question on that. It's kind of for Evan.
Yeah.
And just to speak to, I think that they're functional as well, but I think that you also have to be careful with those because I think it's easy to kind of overdo it. And I've actually seen some people develop knee pain, knee problems, and even like mild muscle strains.
Hip flexor issues.
Exactly, because you're not just pushing over the top of the pedal stroke and coming through the bottom and scraping and then letting the other foot bring it up over the top. You're actually having to take it through the whole entire pedal stroke. So you're having to engage muscle groups that you don't necessarily engage unless you're maybe like in a full sprint. So you're getting into like hip flexors and hamstrings that are not usually used to doing that through that pedal stroke. So Evan, what are some things that people should look out for when doing single leg pedaling work?
I would actually, so I used to do some single leg pedal work. I've actually gotten away from it, Matt, when I did, in undergraduate, I did a study on pedal stroke basically. And I just did basically like a research, just did like kind of a research synopsis on it. And I think the pedal stroke itself is developed through bilateral movement. So it's both sides. It's very similar to how, working on like things in the pool, you've got to make sure that it translates to the stroke very well that you're trying to recreate. And everything that we do repetitively creates, feeds into a certain motor pattern. So just like Jake said, there's actually different muscle activation when I'm only pedaling with one leg. So maybe in short bursts, it can be beneficial for sprint technique because, like you said, there's a lot more dragging up through the bottom of the stroke while you're sprinting or going up very steep climbs. But really, it's more the balance between the pedal stroke that's important. So this is where if you're somebody who has a very big different side to side, let's say power-wise, it's more off of the bike where you can work on that small stuff. So that's where, okay, let's say I'm 58, 42% wise. Let's say my right leg's a lot stronger than my left leg. Well, let's figure out like why that is. If you go to do a single leg squat on both legs and you can go 75% of the way down on your right and 25% of the way down on your left, there's your problem. You're not as stable on that left side, which means when you fatigue out, your body's going to naturally go to its more congruent side, which would be your right side.
Correct.
So it's more that little bit of training off of the bike than trying to just do left leg single drills. Because the problem is as soon as that right leg is introduced again, then you're back into your normal cycling motor pattern, which is not something that we actively think of. That's why I try to explain to people the running gait too, is it's not, these aren't conscious processes. They're cerebellar, they're subconscious processes. So it's not like while you're pedaling, you're thinking, pick up leg, put it down, pick up leg, put it down.
Yeah.
It's just happening as a motor pattern.
And you can do these things without having one foot completely unclipped. I mean, you can ride and just let the other one passively come along with you.
Yep.
And I like that personally for people when we're doing endurance stuff, to help like kind of alleviate some of the strains of being in that position riding for long periods of time. So you can start to, while you're doing your pedal stroke, and Lance could be out there doing it, I can tell him what to do in his ear and nobody else knows, and you're looking at his pedal stroke and it's like, oh, that's just his pedal stroke. But then you'll say, haha, I'm actually using my hamstrings a lot more and I'm giving my quads a little bit of a break. And that's a good way to like deal with stuff like if you've got like fatigue or if you've got a muscle spasm or a cramp. Just be careful that you don't cause those muscles to cramp as well. But that's a good way to kind of get those, just like that short little reprieve.
Or like cadence drills too are
Correct.
great. Yeah, because there's really like Matt, go back to your point about like, single leg drills at different varying cadences or anything like that. If you use both legs for certain cadence drills, you may find out that, when I hit anything over 100, I feel like I'm only pushing through my right leg. You may notice that. Or if I drop below 60, my left knee starts to really hurt.
Yeah.
So you may notice those asymmetries that way.
And this is a reason why I really dig the Garmin Vector pedals. They give you such great information when you get into the cycling dynamics to look at your pedal stroke and your efficiencies and which side you're using more than the other. And you can look at your entire pedal stroke and find out how much stress you're putting into that. You can look at where you're pushing it on the pedal as well. If you're pushing too medially or too laterally, or if you're dead center, it gives you all of that feedback so that while you're on the bike, you can actually physically see what you're doing and start working on correcting that, so you can start to develop those motor patterns so that you can clean up your pedal stroke and become more efficient.
Yep.
So I like it.
Also, let the record show I'm amazingly asymmetrical. So there's some funny videos I know that people have taken me from behind. So I am not somebody who's trying to like lecture anybody on symmetry in your cycling.
Do as I say,
stroke,
not as I do.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Evan, you got another one?
So this is Matt talking about running. I kind of want your opinion on this one. This is a run workout that I'm looking as we're talking about the little things. I'm looking into the future of next season and kind of how to plan, kind of run development through the winter. And I've kind of stumbled across something that was kind of an old world training, I think, approach. But there was a guy who used to preach 6 at 6 all the time. So it was, or 6 at 6 at 6. So it was a 6 a.m., 6 mile run at 6 minute pace. And he would do this 3 times a week, almost religiously every single week, no matter if it was a recovery or a build week through his off season. The idea behind it was building, as we talk about these motor patterns, that neuromuscular motor pattern at early morning times at that 6 minute pace. What are your thoughts just overall on that? I know you were somebody who, when you ran, was big on high volume as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that sounds like you're locking yourself into, a specific distance at a specific pace, early in the morning like that. I don't know. I don't know. I have to think about it for a little while. I'll get back to you for sure. We can readdress it on another podcast.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is that you want, especially that early, is that you kind of want to warm up into it a little bit. And I think that the way it sounds is that it's like, nope, get up, go start at 6 minute pace, like get your 6 miles in at 6 minute pace. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that that's what I would have preferred to do, but just because it's something that I wouldn't prefer to do doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was going to try and look into it a bit because I know there's obviously a million different training approaches, but this was one that kind of caught my attention, being somebody who usually doesn't run too well in the morning. I was thinking about, trying to adjust that. But yeah, we're just, when we're relating it back to little things, I think also looking at the timing of your training is important. So if you are,
I think so too.
Yeah. And let's a good example actually is like bike racing, where let's say you're preparing for a crit that starts at, some of these crits are like late night crits. depending on where you're on the country. I know the East Coast has a lot of like, quote unquote, under the lights crits. You better have some training in your repertoire at late night. Because if your body is not used to expending all of its glycogen at 7 p.m., it's not like you're just going to wake up on race day and be like, all right, here we go. This is same idea with, I know, as me and Matt have talked about, the more and more you race triathlons over the years, the more and more efficient you get at waking up at that time and kind of getting ready to go.
Yeah,
it's not as big of a shock to the system once you've done it for a couple of years.
Cool. Lance.
I got one more.
I think a lot of it's like getting up at a certain amount of time and having a certain amount of space between wake up and race.
Yeah.
That you can potentially replicate in training. So
yeah, that's a good point. It's more about like the hours to the race. Yeah.
I was going to talk about sleep, but you guys just blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
The last one I have is one of the small things. Practice taking your bottle out of the cage and putting it back.
Both hands.
With both hands. Yep. And you need to practice doing that without looking as well.
Thank you for saying that.
Without looking at your cage
or swerving
to get it, or looking to put it back in, so that when you are actually in a group ride or you're right on somebody's wheel, you can safely grab it, drink, and put it back without wobbling.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that a step further. So let's just assume that you've got 2 bottles in there. We're not going to get into the one-to-bottle bait of like which one's more aerodynamic and all that stuff. That's neither here nor there. Which bottle do you generally try and keep your more hydrated bottle up front, or does it just kind of not matter?
Just by repetition, it is easier for me to grab my front bottle than my rear bottle.
Yep.
I can grab it out and I can put it back.
Okay. Yep.
So actually, if I'm in a race situation, I always move the bottle I'm using to the front, if that makes sense.
Ahead of time, not while you're in the race.
No, while I'm in the race.
Okay. Yep. Well, no, but there'll be moments during the race where it's like not as hot. So will that generally be where you're going to change the bottles?
Yes.
Oh, you're saying timing wise, yeah.
Yeah. If I have 2 bottles in a race, I'm always pulling off the front bottle until it's empty.
Correct.
Once it's empty and it's safe to do so, I switch the bottles.
And so when you switch the bottles, this is how I do it. I will put one in my mouth and I will bite firmly with my teeth.
Yeah, I hold it in my mouth.
And hold it very firmly. And that's when you reach down and grab the one from the back, put it in the front, and then you come up and grab the other one and put it back in.
Yes.
There. Okay, that's just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page, because that's how you want to do it. Not trying to do it with 2 hands moving and things around down there. You always want to have a hand on the bars when doing this. The other question is you will see 2 different styles of people taking drinks of water. Some of them will be like the traditional, like you're holding a cup of water and you're going to tilt it up and the top of the bottle is up, and then they're going to put it in there, kind of raise their arm up a little bit and squeeze it into their mouth.
Yeah.
Some people will grab it almost like it's upside down, so that when they pull it up to their mouth, the nipple side is already down.
Yeah.
And then they'll put it up to their mouth and kind of hit themselves that way and then put it back. Which one do you do and why?
I do the one where I grab it and pick it up with the bottle upside down. I think it's just more comfortable for me.
So you kind of reach in and you kind of contort yourself a little bit more, so that when you pull the bottle up, the nipple part, the squeeze bottle part is pointing down. You do that?
I believe so.
Okay. I don't.
Neither do I.
Neither do you? Okay.
I don't either, but Lance, I think we should practice doing it the way that Lance does it, because again, you keep your eyes more on the road because the bottle's up, the nipple's down, your eyes are either, gonna, I think, be a little bit closer to the road. And also, Evan, for you and I in particular, our head, we can stay in more aero position if the bottle's tilted that direction.
That's very true.
In fact, there's some new bottle company that makes one that basically the nipple is set up easier to where it kind of shoots sideways. I don't know if it's probably hard to describe.
I've seen what you're talking about. Anyway,
yeah, I think it's called Speed Fill or Speed. I don't know. Maybe it's called Speed Bottle, something like that. Anyway, the whole point is that yes, you can keep your eyes, down or up, whatever it is. You're not like tilting your head back, but then you're in aero position, right? You're in the I don't know, you might not be in the bars necessarily, but you're still leaning pretty far forward just because that's the way those bikes are set up to go.
Yeah.
And I think potentially we should probably be doing, at least practicing being able to do it the way that Lance does, so that if we need to keep our eyes really closely on the road, that we can.
So I've tried both ways, and I just naturally have gone back to the other way. And I don't find that my head changes position at all, because at the end of the day, the nipple's getting into my mouth the same direction. It's just how high I have to lift my actual elbow up to do that, and how much I have to twist my wrist. I think that the offset of having to do that little bit of extra movement just to get the bottle into the position, for me, is easier to find or to put the bottle back the way that I want it. I think that my hand just will naturally put it back down into the cage a little bit more smoothly. And like we talked about, being able to do that without looking, for me, that's what works best. That might be one of those things for us to go out there and run some trials on it and figure out which one's going to be the most effective, the most efficient, and the most repeatable, with the best outcomes of you not crashing or dropping your bottle. So
and no swerving either. That's the most important part.
If I had never practiced taking the bottle and putting it back without looking, I would never drink during either a crit or a circuit race. Because I'm always watching the wheel in front of me. And I don't want to look down, because if that guy wobbles, I need to be prepared for that. So I just wouldn't drink.
And that's another thing. If he does wobble and you do have that bottle in your hand, ditch the bottle.
You just drop it.
No, don't just drop it. Throw it. Get it out of the way so nobody runs it over. But that bottle, it's not very expensive. You can afford the $7 or $8 to replace it if you absolutely have to. But you don't want to go down because you have a bottle in your hand.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think in triathlon too, it's funny because you would think, it's got to be easier to hydrate, but I will say, like, and Matt, you kind of know the feeling when you're really trying to hold a certain wattage, it becomes a little bit harder to control the time trial bike. I will say, and even with me and Matt having spent as much time as we have in the time trial position, I will admit at mile 50, like mile 45, 50, it gets a little bit harder to reach behind you, get that bottle, and comfortably get a drink in when you're kind of in the red.
Well, that's a good point, because you guys are grabbing the bottle from.
And we ride road bikes a lot, so putting those bottle cages in different positions for us is weird.
Oh, that rear bottle grab, I always dread that during a race, Matt. Like I always try to get rid of my front one first. I'm like, oh God, here we go. I got to go for the rear one now. Got to contort your back into some position where you can get to it.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Bottle Talk.
Yeah, similar to Lance, right? Yeah, similar to Lance. Like I use that rear bottle as kind of like the refill station, and the front one is kind of
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Very cool. I like that. That was a good one. I got two more. Well, kind of one more. There's a race that I used to do a race series that I used to do down in Southern California, and it was called Non-Dot. I'm like, that's an interesting name. And the gentleman who started the race series and the promoter, his name is John Curley. Super cool guy. And so cool that, it was funny. He goes up to Bend for like a month during the summer every year. Mm-hmm. And he was there riding, and I saw him on Strava. I'm like, hey, John, that's pretty cool. I'm actually going to be in Sun River. We should connect. He's like, absolutely. So I went and rode with him down there. We went and did, what's the trail system down there? Dave or Paul?
Phil's Trail.
Phil, Dave, Paul. Yeah, that's all the same.
Phil's Trail.
Phil's Trail. So he took me back there. We did 20 plus miles and just got to chatting with him. Like, tell me what's the story behind Non-Dot? And now it's up on his website. But Non-Dot basically is, if you think of like the dotted system in terms of like when you go do like different trails, it'll tell you like there's the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced. Well, a non-dot is you're just basically going off all systems and you're trying new lines. So the definition that they have up on their site says steering away from the easy line and taking the challenging yet ultimately more fulfilling path. So it's just kind of like challenging yourself to do different little things. And that really stuck with me. And so every time I do that now, I'll see a line that you're supposed to ride on. You look over in the bushes like, that could be a line. And so I'll do that. And I'll say, non-dot, because he did that. Like I was riding with him down there at Phil's, and like we'd be riding. All of a sudden he just hit some crazy line and go over some rock. And I'm like, that was awesome. And while he was doing it, he's like, non-dot. And he still does that. And that's non-dot John. So I always think about that kind of stuff, is just taking a different line. Don't look at things a little bit differently, kind of look at things outside of the box, and don't go and disrupt or break or do anything to a trail that's not supposed to be done. But there are different lines out there. Try and go over that log, try and like go up that little berm if you're afraid of that, or try and just take a different line that's different from what you would traditionally do and what all the other people do, and challenge yourself to do something different. And I think that taking that philosophy in life too is kind of a cool thing, because you just try things a little bit differently, do things differently than what everybody else does. Translates really well to riding bikes as well. So non-dot.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Matt, you got any more for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're more personal, but like I definitely, there's some things that I really want to develop as far as like morning routine with just doing some different like exercises specifically for Achilles / calves that, that I really think is important. I think all of us, may have some sort of, weakness or issues that they could potentially set up a morning routine to address. That's not necessarily a small little skill thing to do. But it's definitely something that's kind of been on my mind recently.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to heal up, buddy. It's just like days after Matt had his accident, we were supposed to like look into starting Pilates together. We're going to go do some Pilates. And,
So I was like
eagerly waiting
we're
for you to...
discussing that, and I'm like, no, broken.
Yeah. But no, Matt, I think that's a good point when you're looking at just... I think people need to look more at especially chronic injury rehab as an endurance athlete as more something like you prepare for a race. So it's something that you do need to make like a schedule of basically for long-term success. I think, a lot of us endurance athletes, as soon as something's hurting, we want the quick answer, which is ironic because nothing in endurance sports is the quick answer.
Nope.
Like, have you ever been like, oh, I was 10th in that race, I want to be first now.
Ironic.
Be like, all right, 12 months later is when that's going to happen. So it's just kind of committing to that long-term plan.
Gotcha. Evan, you got any more?
I got a really boring one. I watched so Cassie took a swim video of me while I was in Bend, and Matt, you'll appreciate my right hand has stopped doing this weird little kick out to the right. I've been focusing on that for now like 9 months, no lie. It has been in my head almost every single swim stroke is to get that right arm from flailing out to the right. And I finally watched 2 swim videos of myself, and it's not happening anymore.
Yay.
Still slow as crap in the water, but thank God that at least asymmetry is gone. So
nice. Lance, were you done?
I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Right. I'll toss out one more too. And if you guys have anything else, we can do that as well. But bike handling stuff. So for me, like doing little things like when you're riding on a mountain bike, you see a rock in the path, slow down, see if you can fling it with your tire.
Yeah.
what?
Try to kick out your rear wheel and try to like...
Lance knows exactly what I'm saying.
Yep.
MVP does that kind of stuff, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a sport that's like soccer on bikes.
Right.
Have you guys seen this sport?
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're
On
incredible at that, I
fixies
bet.
with upright handlebars.
But that translates to like being able to maneuver your bike and find new lines.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just specifically apply to mountain bikes. You can do that on the road too, because when you're riding, you'd be amazed at how many times you'd be riding and all of a sudden, big crack or big pothole in the road. Like being able to like kind of flip your bike or flick your bike or be able to jump or change lines in like the flick of an eye. You got to be able to do that stuff to stay safe. So, cornering on flat turns. Lance was talking about cornering, taking that stuff.
Yeah. Do
that on a mountain bike, and you will learn really quickly how to take the most effective and fluid line. Otherwise, you're going to be laying on your side.
Well, and you can also on a mountain bike, taking a tight corner, you can take it tighter if you separate your body from the bike a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you push your body to the outside of the corner instead of staying right on top of your bike and railing the corner. You can, if you push the weight of your body to the outside pedal, you can actually take it tighter and faster.
Yep.
But it is a hard skill to learn.
Yeah. So you've got that outside foot that's going to be down because the inside's up because you don't want a pedal strike. And you want to push force through the actual pedal. And that applies to both mountain and road bikes. Pushing force through, like you don't have to do a full-on toe point, but if you just kind of push your foot down just a tiny bit and put all the weight that you have and the pressure that you have through the ball of your foot and push that into the pedal, your bike's going to be in much better contact with the ground.
Yeah.
And that's what Lance was saying.
It will rail, which means you will fly through the corner faster.
Yes.
Yeah, and just working on slow speed turns, working on side hops like we already talked about, rear wheel hops. Like when you're going over like a curb or something like that, you might be able to bunny hop, but can you lift your rear wheel up too without like destroying the rim?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff comes up. I mean, you see it in the tour all the time. They'll be coming up to a big roundabout and all of a sudden guys like, and you just like bunny hops and like he has to pull that rear wheel up. That kind of stuff pays dividends. So, and then
that's always fun to watch in the tour. Whenever those little subtle things like that, those are the most amazing bike handling things to watch. Is like the guy who rides into somebody's yard on an attack or something like that. It's like, like who in a group ride even thinks of that? Like that.
And the last thing, I suck at this. I have sucked at it for my entire life, and I will someday, before I die and before I quit cycling, will master it. The wheelie. I need to be able to do a freaking. And
I can't do a wheelie.
And
either.
we're out there at short track this past week, and Terry Hamness is just like doing
a wheelie in the warm up. Yeah.
And I saw him even like earlier in the day. He went out on the PR or the racetrack, like the tarmac, and he was just doing a wheelie like for like a quarter mile. I'm like, how do you do that? I cannot do that.
I feel like it's one of those things. Once you get it like once or twice, you're set. It's just like you have to find that balance point.
Well,
it's a scary balance point.
I was talking to Terry's brother Mike, and he was telling me that exact same thing. He's like, there'll be a moment in time where you get it and it just clicks. He's like, all of a sudden it's like ingrained in your DNA that you know how to do a wheelie. You know that balance point. You know exactly where you need to be and where you position your body, and then you can just do them forever. I'm like, oh God, I got a lot of work to do. Yeah. If anybody knows how to do a wheelie or a good wheelie instruction video that we can watch on YouTube, send it to us. So, Matt, you got any more?
That's it.
Sweet. Anybody else got anything else to add?
Do you have a wheelie instructional video yet, Matt?
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Working on it. Okay.
Get Sagan, come on and do it on his TT bike.
Yep. Right now I'm on a bike and I'm half wheelied right now.
Good. Okay. Okay. Little half pop.
Yeah. All right. One last thing, Lance.
The only thing I want to re-mention is to go to GoFundMe and find the Bob Pool accident page, and if you can show Bob a little love to help recover from his wreck at PIR this last week, that would be really cool. So,
very cool. Evan, one last thing.
My dad finished Ragbri, the ride across
wow.
Iowa. Yeah,
wow.
He did it he's done it. He's done it a few times before on the Air Force team, and he has really in the last 2 years. I really think because of he listens to this podcast, and Jake, he's talked about kind of like he loves listening. It's gotten him really back into riding the last year.
Awesome.
Cool.
And he did Ragbri for the first time in a long time, and he said he felt great. I mean, he's tired as heck. It is a long bike ride, but it goes from, I believe, am I right? It goes side to side in Iowa. I forget what direction. I want to say it goes west or east to west.
Which way does the wind typically blow? Because I'm sure they're riding with the wind, right?
Yeah, usually it's a long day, I know. But the Air Force team was out there too. My mom took a really cool video of the Air Force team all coming in together.
Gotcha.
And just kind of sent chills. It was really cool.
The most impressive thing about Ragbri is it's 30,000 cyclists.
Oh yeah,
wow! It's gigantic.
I believe I could be wrong.
30,000.
I think it's the biggest group ride in the world.
I think so.
I think it's the biggest supported group ride in the world.
It's a week long. It's like camping.
7 days. Yep.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Is that on your bucket list, Lance?
I'm not too interested in Iowa.
So Iowa has actually like way more climbing than you would think it would too. His rides actually had a decent amount of elevation gain because people picture Iowa like they do Kansas. It is not. Iowa, you are basically going up or down for a good portion of that state.
Sure.
Now you're not, climbing 6,000 feet at any point, but you're hitting 100-footers every couple seconds.
Yeah, it's big. It's super popular. That's cool that he did it.
Yeah. He had a blast, and they're in Colorado now, so I'll be able to meet them going out to the race, which is awesome. So
great.
Yeah.
Matt, one last thing.
You guys, I'm sure you've already seen this, but I posted like the video that I took when we were there, when I was in the studio. Just a quick behind the scenes video, just for any people that listen to the podcast, but maybe they're missing the live stream, or they're just not sure kind of like what the studio looks like. I posted a little video to my YouTube channel just saying like, check it out. Check out the podcast, but also giving people a little insight into how everything looks over there. So I've done one of those videos before. It's real short, but it's definitely kind of a fun thing to check out for those that listen to us. Also, I have a bit of people that follow my channel that don't actually know that I'm on this Dial podcast itself. So I think it's good to just kind of cross-pollinate, the groups and things like that. So pretty fun.
Yeah, it was an excellent video. And
we're being filmed.
You were constantly being watched.
I had no idea. I didn't sign anything. I didn't agree to that.
I completely failed on sending you some of that video footage from the GoPro team, Matt. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I realized that when you put that out and I got the little notification, I'm like, dope. That didn't happen.
That's fine.
And that's another thing. Matt brought up something. The live stream. We're contemplating, or I've been contemplating bringing it back, and I'm sure the guys here wouldn't mind having that come back. We would do that. I would be curious to see if we could find a sponsor who would like to help us out with that. There's a little bit of a carrying cost to that, and for any of those that were wondering, we don't make any money off this. No. It costs money every single month, and it's our time, but we love doing it. We have a blast doing it. But if you guys are interested in having the live stream come back, we're looking for a sponsor, and it would be pennies for people. We'll make mention of you, and maybe you could help you out, but you can help us out. And what we need it for is for some software stuff that we have to pay like a monthly fee, and it's something we tried using a system, and it just sucked. The quality was just terrible. But if anybody's interested out there, give us a jingle.
Be pretty cool.
My one last thing is there is an article that Bicycling Magazine put out, and I saw it yesterday morning, and it kind of reminded me of the little run-in we had while we were on the rack. There was this idiot guy in this little Subaru car, and I think I have a picture of his car and his license plate, and I'm tempted to turn it in, but this guy came flying up on us. We were riding on a country road. There was nowhere for us to go, and he was pissed that we were on a country road. He came by me and was probably maybe a foot away from me, and we were somewhat compact, and he purposefully buzzed every single person in our group, and we were coming into a tight turn that was maybe 20 feet before some railroad tracks and maybe 100 feet before a stop sign. And going into the turn, it's not blind, but you can't really see super well. He buzzed Lance. Lance was in the turn, and the guy came up and narrowly missed Lance, and he's like blowing his horn at us, just being a complete jackhole. It's like, really, guy? Is that truly necessary? I mean,
he lost 8 seconds.
Not even that, because he didn't really slow down.
He didn't. No.
That guy's life is probably very sad and angry, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
It's probably some guy in his 20s and just being a complete idiot.
His life's probably not going the way that he wants it to, and he's very bummed about it.
So yesterday I'm like kind of just cruising around looking at stuff, and this article pops up by Bicycling Magazine, put out by Bicycling Magazine, and it's titled, "Seriously, drivers, is your time more valuable than my life?" And it was just a good read. And some of the other people in the cycling community, I already shared it, but I will put that up on our Dial Podcast Facebook page. I promise I'll do it. I know we say we're going to put stuff up, and sometimes I forget about it. But just give that a read. And what kind of sucks is that, cyclists are going to read that, but people who drive cars are not cyclists. They're not. But what can happen is you can put that out there, and you can share it with people, and you can plead with them like, hey, just take a second and read this, and just know that really at the end of the day, they're saying that this guy was driving on a country road was inconvenienced by 40 seconds because he had to wait for a cyclist. And
40 seconds is steep. It's less.
It's less because they were saying they're making it sound like he had to stop, but he didn't stop. He was still moving, so they were theorizing that it was maybe more like 20 seconds. But still, at the end of the day, think about all the stuff that's
10 minutes.
Yeah. Think about all of the things that you wait for. I mean, like, you'll wait for 5 minutes at the McDonald's drive-thru.
Yeah.
You'll wait for 5 minutes at Starbucks to get your coffee. I mean, you'll wait for 3 minutes or whatever for a commercial break between like you're watching your TV show, and you don't gripe about that, but you're inconvenienced by 20 seconds, and you're going to use your vehicle as a device to hurt somebody or to run somebody off the road or to scare or just to posturize. Why?
I think we need to go back to the only punishment that should be for anybody who does anything in a car to a cyclist. If your license plate's turned in, it should be suspended, and you should have to ride your bicycle everywhere for a month. And then this will all stop.
Right.
Because then you'll be on the road and you'll be like, oh, wow, that's terrifying when a car buzzes me. I probably shouldn't do that anymore.
And I've said this before. I drive just as much as the next guy, and I encounter cyclists, and you know what? I'm not like they make it sound like
does it ruin your day?
We're the root of all evil, that they're like hours late to their appointment to do whatever. I've been inconvenienced this year. I've been inconvenienced maybe once for a total of like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
I have yet in my life ever been late to anything because of a cyclist.
Right. Correct.
That's a lot of years of driving right there. And I guarantee that's going to continue for the next 10 years. I don't think they're going to make me late. And there's a lot of cyclists in Vancouver.
And one more thing while we're on the subject, do yourself a favor and go learn the laws with respect to bicycles riding on the roadway. We had another run-in with a local gentleman back in the hills that was very upset that we were riding our bicycles on the road, that we needed to get off and we needed to yield to him, even though we were going the rate of speed down a hill on a double yellow line with blind turns.
But were you on the white line is really the question. Matt, was he on the white line? Do you think so?
Could have been.
Could have been.
He
wanted
us to pull over and let him go because he was inconvenienced and he had to follow us for, I'm not kidding you, it was maybe like 45 seconds to a minute. And he came over and I politely was like, we were doing the rack and he came up and he started getting in the ear of the person that looked like he was in charge. He came up and asked, who's in charge of this station? I want to talk to you about these cyclists that are coming through here. And I was there filling my water bottle up and I was kind of listening. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go again. And like, Jake, bite your tongue, bite your tongue, bite your tongue. And then finally I just had to chirp in. But I did it tactfully. And that's just, that's how you're going to get something across. And he started talking to this guy and I interjected and I'm like, well, actually, this is what happened. And then he didn't disagree with me. And I'm like, actually, these are the laws. He's like, no, you need to pull over and you need to get out of my way. No, those aren't the laws. No. I'm like, well, sir, I appreciate your opinion.
Yeah.
But your opinion's incorrect. It's not the law. We can take the lane if we need to take the lane. Plus, we were going the speed limit. Plus, it was a double yellow line. And plus, it was blind turns. What are you going to do? And he was just beside himself, and he just wanted to continue yelling at me. And I was just killing him with as much kindness as I could, saying, "Sir, when do me a favor. When you get home, open up your computer, pull up Google, and type in Washington State laws for cyclists and motorists and all that other stuff. We are a vehicle on the road. We can take the line, and we should not ride two abreast and obstruct traffic. We should get over and let you pass when it's safe to do so. This was not one of those situations, and he just was so upset that he wasn't right, and it was his opinion that he wanted to win the day. And
granted, this is a Saturday too. Yeah. What was he headed to work?
Well,
probably not if he had that much time to stop and yell at you.
We're out in the middle of the country. Yeah, we're out in the middle of the country, Yakult, Washington. You've never heard of it, right? It's for a reason. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was something that went down, and I think it turned out well. I'm hoping that this older gentleman, took the time to go learn. And I don't know. It's just kind of funny. And there's a Washington State bicycle advocacy group. It's not Cascade. It's a different group. I popped onto their website and actually because I wanted to see if somebody made a little pocketbook for the laws of the road. They do. And they will send it to you for free. And I sent them an email saying, cool. I would love to have one of those. And I would even pay for it. And you guys always hear my computer dinging and popping and belling and all of that other stuff. They just sent me an email back. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And if they do...
Carry it with you.
Yeah.
If a guy pulls over and stops, be like, no, I actually have a law book right here. Let's read this together.
You got a minute, buddy? Let's sit down. Let's go through the law.
I love it.
So anyway, I'll keep you posted on that. To be continued. So
everybody should carry that instead of carry a weapon on them. Just carry the law book on you and just take it out each time. Yeah. Somehow I don't think that would work.
With knowledge. So. All right, that's the wrap. That's the end of the show. Lance, good luck tonight at Short Track.
Same to you.
Hopefully you have a good outcome, and maybe we'll be sharing the podium with you.
That'd be fun. Yeah. We'll see.
Woo.
Evan, you've got a big race coming up, buddy. You want to tell everybody one more time when that is?
This is this upcoming Saturday, August. I believe that is the 3rd. I believe. Yes, it is the 3rd. I will be racing in Boulder, Colorado.
We wish you luck.
Early morning. I'm more excited to hear about the short track stuff because that's going to be a real tight sort of race. So
will you be back from Boulder for the?
I should be. My flight, as long as nothing gets delayed, should get me back in time where I can come for next week's podcast. So, yeah.
Matt, you have a good time with your post Ironman festivities and travels. Still there.
Perfect. Thanks.
Awesome. We look forward to having you come back in here. And everybody else out there, you guys have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.